Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God who is great and merciful. And we want to say greetings to our guest and namaskar, assalamu alaikum, good evening. And I think we are so grateful to Dr. Payal Kumar, which seems to be a very familiar name. And we have many Kumars in Pakistan. In Sindh, in our part, we have a lot of Hindu community here as well. And I think Sindh is a good combination. It's a mix of various communities. And we're really thankful and appreciate Dr. Payal Kumar's time. She's the professor and chair of OB, Organizational Behavior and HR at BML University, India. And uh, this is BML Munjal University, India. She's the head research and international collaborations. So today's session is on multiple identities of an entrepreneur. And so that is a very interesting and very beautiful panoramic view of the university. It seems to be, I think, four-story building, Dr. Pyle?
Yeah, and we're about 40 acres, a lot of greenery all the way around. So we're quite blessed actually.
How far it is from New Delhi or the center of the city?
An hour, I don't know whether you know MDI Gurgaon, it's about an hour from there. From the airport, it's about an hour, 15 minutes.
An hour, 15 minutes from Delhi International Airport. Very good. So BML Gunjal University, I would request her later on to tell something about the university and how is it different than other universities, what is its distinguishing factors. And if you look her this map, so she has virtually traveled from all over New Delhi to Karachi, and whenever I fly from Karachi to Lahore, I can see the border during night time because the border is very well lit on both sides. So I think there are a lot of, although there are differences, but I think there are more things common as well. And I wish due to this academic exchange and learning from each other, we can learn from each other. We can be a source of sort of harmony. We can be an inspiration for our new generations, and we can, you see, maybe do interesting things academically. So that was a quick introduction to Dr. Pyle, and actually, Dr. MS Zahid Sahab, how we got connected. Dr. Payal is a very good researcher, and she is been presenting her research in the United States. And there's a institution called Academy of Management in the United States, and she has been working in the area of spirituality. There's a division called religiosity and spirituality, and she is a senior member of that area, and she believes that we need to be more spiritual. We need to look beyond transactions. So that division says that we need to look beyond give and take. We are more givers. We are more universal. We have more universal values. And as human beings, we are one family. This is what it is. Payal, Dr. Payal, you can correct me. This is, you can correct and add on. So she has been a senior member of that, and she did her PhD. Something interesting is very common with me is that Dr. Payal did not go straight away into academics. She went into practitioner's role. She worked in management and in her career. And later, when she even had kids, I think, she switched over and did a PhD at a much later age, actually. And she will tell her about that journey a bit. And she has, I think, grown up kids, and she is, at this age, she ventured into a PhD and into research. And that seems to be a bit difficult domain at this age. You have to write and then to reach at the top journals and at the highest level. So today, I think Dr. Payal will be talking something more than making money, more than doing some transactional behavior, and talking about spirituality and universal brotherhood, I hope, and using using her knowledge and experience. So once again, Dr. Payal, wishing you the best, your family, your kids, and all over the people in your country. And on behalf of our class, And the quick introduction to this class is that this class is a combination. If you look at this, a lot of people. So there are people from, whenever there is a B written, it means Balochistan. Advanced course B is for Balochistan. So we have a lot of people, 91 people right now in the class. Whenever we say A, B, they are from Balochistan. Then we talk about AP, P is for Punjab. And when we talk about S, they are for Sindh. And then we talk about, we have some people from Kashmir as well, the Pakistan side. And we have people from KPK, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. So it's a very, and then we have international people. In this class, you will find people from Canada, Abu Dhabi, and Canada, Calgary, Dubai, Abu Dhabi. So it's an international audience. You will be heard across the globe, I suppose. At least a few people have joined. And so looking forward to listen to you and wish you the best. So I'm here to take any questions. My chat box will be open, and as you have like 45, 50 minutes. As you approach towards the end, we will ask questions and you can then answer. Thank you very much.
So please stop.
And namaste. I would like to thank Payal and Dr. for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here, and thank you for taking time out to listen to me. I hope I'm audible enough. Is that all good?
Yes, audible. You're audible.
So before I switch on the PPT, just a quick background about myself. I'm currently, as Dr. Qureshi mentioned, I'm the chair of HR and OB at BML Munjal University. Munjal family, if you would know, are the ones who are the owners of the Hero Group, which is the largest two-wheeler motorcycle manufacturer in the world. And they also have many other multiple businesses, of course. But they've also become thought leaders, and they've set up this university about almost 6 years back. So we're fairly new in the higher education establishment in India, but we're working very progressively, and you could say aggressively. You know, we're growing very, very fast, and we're even coming into the rankings. This year we've come into the rankings for the first time. So I think what we've achieved in the last 5.5 years has probably taken other universities, you know, a decade or two to do. So I'm very happy to be part of this group. One reason I am part of this group is because of the vision and mission, which is to create ethical leaders, not just to churn out degrees and, you know, get MBAs to study and then get into a job. But we have a wider vision of hopefully having our children, our students have some amount of ethics when they go out there in the big bad world. As Dr. Qureshi was saying, I'll just very quickly tell you my background, which is a bit complex. First of all, I belong to Pakistan because I'm originally a Multani. So my parents were, my mother was from Multan, sorry, and then eventually they had to come to India. I don't speak Multani, unfortunately, but my father, then he was a very well-known doctor and he settled in England. So I was born and brought up outside India. In fact, I was born in Zambia. My father was a consultant there, and then we went to Fiji, then we went to England. So my formative years were spent in the UK. And I started doing my LLB at Lancaster University, but I was very fascinated by world religions. And I was very fascinated by the question that why do people have different beliefs? And so I then decided to switch my degree after a year, much to the annoyance of my mother, that why are you not becoming a lawyer? And I decided to do a degree in religious studies, studying Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism. In fact, I won a prize on an essay that I wrote in Sufism. And then I went on to continue this passion of mine, and I did a master's in religious studies from London University, specializing in Hinduism and the Dharma Shastras. So that was donkeys years ago. And then I did a diploma in newspaper journalism, and I came to India because I had kind of fallen in love with the country. मुझे इंडिया को ठीक करना था. I was a very starry-eyed, idealistic journalist who came to India, who wanted to set India right, alleviate poverty and all that kind of stuff. So for 10 years, I worked in Hindustan Times as a senior journalist, working very closely with women activists in a very underdeveloped part of India, which is Bihar, working closely with women activists, child activists, with eco-spiritualists and all that kind of stuff. Then eventually we shifted to Delhi, and then I got more and more involved in the corporate sector. So my last job in the corporate sector was as a vice president of editorial and production of Sage publication. Many of you would have read Sage publication literature, books and journals. So I was there for 6 years, and then I got bitten by the bug of I want to learn more, and I did my XLRI, as Dr. Qureshi said, at this young age. I did my PhD from XLRI, and then after that I joined Monjal. So that's kind of briefly my journey and briefly about the university. The university is 40 acres and very luscious fields. We're in a beautiful part of, a little bit away from Delhi, but in a beautiful part. So with your permission, I'll start the PPT.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, so around about 20 minutes through, we'll take a few questions. You can keep putting them in the chat, and then after about 45 minutes again, we'll take a few questions. So I'm going to talk about multiple identities of an entrepreneur. Profile I put up here. I think I mentioned most of this. Yeah. And these are some of my books. I've done 10 books so far, another 3 are in publication. But these are the books that are relevant for this talk, which are including Social Entrepreneurship, Indian Women as Entrepreneurs, Unveiling, Indian Women Leadership. Then I've done a series on world entrepreneurs like Jack Ma and all this. And I also did a series on leadership and followership, because very often, people talk about the leader, but they forget the follower, right? So follower is also very important. You don't have a leader unless you have followers, and you can be a leader and a follower at the same time and wear different hats. So these are some of my publications. So I first want to just talk about what is an entrepreneur and what is an intrapreneur. Okay, so an entrepreneur, as we all know, is an individual who runs their own business, starts their own enterprise, looks at risks and all that kind of things. But an intrapreneur is almost like an entrepreneur, but who actually works for a large firm on the inside, right? So they may have entrepreneurial skills without incurring the risks. So when I left one of my large corporate organizations, a few of my friends said to me, you've got so much vast experience, so why don't you set up your own editing enterprise? And I thought about it for about a week, and I realized that I could do it, and I'd worked out profit loss and all that kind of things. But somehow it just did not excite me. It's not something that would make me jump out of bed, personally speaking. So then again, I spoke to a few entrepreneurial friends, and so they told me, basically, you're an entrepreneur. You take risks and you do very well for companies. So we do have different personality sets. So that's what made me think about this particular topic. But of course, there are some commonalities between entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs. They both play leadership roles. Yeah. So when we speak about leadership, the early studies used to be on what we call trait leadership theories, right? So for about 100 years, scholars have been looking at what are these particular traits that makes one a leader. And it kind of has the assumption, it's based on the assumption that we are born leaders. We have some kind of innate qualities. So what happens is that, for hundreds of years, scholars have got together that what are these traits? So whether you're the head of an army, whether you're head of a monastery, whether you're head of a university, whether you're head of a corporate organization, they came up with certain common personality traits, which everybody seems to have. Because leadership is about, if we talk about leadership, not leader, leadership is a process that leads a team to a particular goal. So while the goal may be different, how you take the leader to a goal is what counts. So these are different types of leadership theories on trait leadership. So for example, there are 65 types of leaderships apparently. So one of them is autocratic leadership. This is the type of leader who takes all decisions by themselves. They don't consult anybody else. They're not interested in relationships. They expect subordinates to obey, and they motivate through carrot and stick. I hope you know what you mean by carrot and stick. But like if you don't listen to me, I'll punish you. But if you do listen to me, then I will, I keep putting rewards in front of you to make you work better. Whether or not you get the rewards is obviously a different kettle of fish. So that's one type of trait leadership. Another type is what we call transformational leadership. I'm just giving you examples of trait leadership theories. Transformational leadership is, I mean, just to explain it to you, it's a very difficult type of leadership to master. You know, if I ask you that whoever is your best friend, can you change the one habit of your best friend? I think probably the answer will be no, it's very difficult, right? Even somebody known to you very well. So let me ask you, do you think you can change some habit of yourself or some personality trait? Again, very difficult, right? Even if I ask you to change one behavioral pattern by, if you're a right-hander, start using your left hand from tomorrow. Again, very difficult, because we get used to certain ways of thinking and behaving, and you know, we become habituated to it. So transformational leadership is about changing your whole team, getting them to think not just about themselves, but to go beyond that, to think about the world around them, and you know, get them to work for the greater good. So it's obviously a very difficult type of leadership to master, because you get them to, you know, look at beyond themselves, beyond their appraisal. They look at the greater good. So there's this very interesting film, Pay It Forward, if you're able to catch it. It's about a social studies teacher, Eugene, and he gives his class an assignment, and he says, do something to change the world, and you'll be marked upon it, and you get 1 year to do this particular project. Now, this particular boy on your screen, Trevor, he comes up with, he says that if anybody does something good to me, I will return the favor by doing good to another 3 people. So you can see the diagram on the board. He said that if we all do this, then, you know, if somebody does something good to me, I do for 3 people, and then they'll also do for 3 people, then it will pass on so beautifully, right? And that will lead to a lot of good in this world. So, you know, unfortunately, the film actually leads to his own death, but the point is that he actually was a transformational leader, and so was his teacher. The teacher planted the seed in him, but he actually managed to transform people's way of thinking around him. Yeah, so that's an example of that. Now, the theories on leadership are many different theories. But after that, you know, scholars started looking at behavioral theories, and maybe it's not all inborn. Maybe you can learn some habits. You can look at other successful leaders, and you can learn from them. And researchers also started looking at situational or contingency theories, in which your leadership depends on your context. So situational leadership theory has become very important these days and popular, because it's basically saying that a leader actually has to change his or her leadership style according to the situation, according to the maturity of your team. So for example, when I was vice president, I had one team leader, one manager who had been with me for about 4 years. She was very competent, so she had her teams and her vendors and whatever, so I would just take a weekly report from her. And of course, I was there if she just wanted to drop in at any time, or if there was some SOS. But I had another manager who joined very new, and I was spending about 1 hour a day with him, training and explaining things to him, right? So I'm treating my managers differently according to their competency and their maturity. So therefore, I have to change my leadership style. It cannot be copy-paste for everybody concerned. So, I mean, today in our talk, we're looking at trait theory, but I'm just kind of talking to you about the other theories. We're looking at trait theory, and we're looking at what theories are there in entrepreneurship for a leader, right? So I think in the trait theory of leadership, there are about 10 different traits that scholars have come up which explain leadership, but some which I think are very important for an entrepreneur or an intrapreneur. Number one is resilience, the ability to bounce back even if you fail. And the other one is agility, again, to anticipate change. And, you know, these days with COVID, you have to really think ahead, you know. So recently I did an MDP, a management development program for 18 managers. And in fact, the title of this MDP was How to Manage Leadership in Turbulent Times. Because even managers, they've got no precedent, right? Suddenly everybody's working from home. I'm doing this webinar from my university flat, which is home, right? So we don't have any precedent. You're dealing with teams who are working from home, and it's really difficult. So what's happening is that a lot of leaders have actually started micromanaging. They're asking their followers that you send me a screenshot of your screen every hour. I mean, so that's ridiculous, right? I mean, that's completely breathing down the neck of the follower, of the subordinate. So I had to do this MDP to retrain the leaders that, just focus on the results and the outcome and the processes, not on getting a screenshot every 1 hour. Yeah. So I had to get them to unlearn, in a sense, that don't go with your common default leadership style. You have to think about, because you don't know what's happening to the person in the home front, right? They may have elderly parents they also need to care of. They may have a disabled child. So when they do the actual work for the company and when they actually manage the household responsibility should surely be left to the employee engaged, right? As long as you get your results. So resilience, what do we mean by resilience? It's, you fail several times, but you don't let it get you down, you bounce back. So I think we all know the story of Mark Zuckerberg. This is one of my series that I did with Rupa publication. I did a series on world entrepreneurs. One of my authors was Abha Sharma. She wrote this on, she wrote a life story of Mark Zuckerberg. He came to be close to be throwing out of Harvard. I think we all know his story. And he dropped out of Harvard. And yet, very soon after dropping out, he formed what we call Facebook today, which is very much part of our lives. And yet, 12 years later, he received an honorary degree from Harvard. So resilience is about failing, but then picking yourself up, brushing the dust off you, and then carrying on with your life, or carrying on with different thoughts, different opportunities, or even maybe the same thing that you're going on and on over again. So very interestingly, there's a professor, I think it's a Stanford University professor, he put out, it's available online, my resume of failures. He's quite a well-known professor in a senior position, he's tenured, incredible publications, but one student asked him something like, wow, I'm really, I have so much respect for you and whatever. And he said, no, but I've got here through a lot of struggle. For every paper that you've seen which has been published, there have been so many others which have been rejected. And he's put out online, you can check it out, his resume of failures, like he applied for certain funds, didn't happen. He even applied for certain professorship positions, didn't happen. He wanted to publish several papers, didn't happen. So what we usually show to the world is our successes, right? We don't show that, behind these successes are a whole load of, we've fallen down, but we need to get up, shake ourselves, and then move on, okay? Another book that I worked with on Abha Sharma was Jack Ma. Again, I think we all know his story. He was rejected for more than 30 jobs, including, you can imagine, he was rejected for the job of a waiter. And now through Alibaba, he's providing employments to so many people. And his favorite line is, if Jack Ma and his team can be successful, then 80% of people can be successful. He himself was tried to apply to Harvard several times and he was rejected. And yet today he's being called there as a visiting professor. So, that's resilience, right? Complete self-belief, believing in yourself, even though the world doesn't believe in you, but you believe in yourself and your project. And you just keep going at it. You just keep going and going. Yeah. So do we have any questions currently? Do we have any questions? I'm not able to see the chat box. Dr. Qureshi?
Dr. Payal, there are no questions right now. We can. Dr. Shahid, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I think the questions will be coming after like half an hour, I think. Our tendency, our students are a bit obedient and they reflect a lot. So Ahmed Zahid Saab will be the first person to ask the question. Hopefully, Dr. Ahmed Saab, you'll be the first one, sir. Okay.
Yeah, so I do want questions, yeah, because it's good to have a dialogue, right? So I'll carry on. So up to now, what have we spoken about? Different theories of leadership. When we speak of trait theory of leadership, we speak of what traits are there that entrepreneurs are basically leaders in their own right. They have, number one, the trait they need to have is resilience. So even if you fail, you bounce back. Another is self-belief, which is very closely linked to this, right? You believe so much in your project, you believe in yourself that one day you can be successful. So that's all positive psychology, right? There's a lot of power in positive psychology. So for example, even it has been shown in research that if a school teacher is very positive with her class and says, encourages them, you know, greatly and praises them a little bit more than what they're entitled to, the marks of the class go up. But if a teacher is very deprecating and criticizing all the time the students, collectively the marks go down. So that is the strength of positive psychology and self-belief. There is also, just 1 second, I'm just gonna, So there is also something called promotion and prevention focus type of personality. Just 1 second, I'm just muting. Sorry, I'm back again. So another type of personality traits which we can talk about, you know, many people are divided. Some of us are either promotion focused or prevention focused as people. Now, what does this mean? If you are a promotion focused type of personality, it means that you are more concerned with, as it says over here, with the presence or absence of positive outcomes. And if you are, I'm just trying to get this. Yeah, if you're prevention focused, it means that you're more concerned with the presence or absence of negative outcomes, right? So promotion focused person is more interested in positive outcomes. The prevention focus is more worried about negative outcomes. These are our drivers. So you may be a promotion focused person or a prevention focused person as a personality. Neither one is right or wrong. It's just how we are different. So promotion focused people, these are the traits: work quickly, consider a lot of alternatives, are great brainstormers, open to new opportunities, optimists, plan for best case scenarios. This could be a weakness also, right? If you only plan for best case scenarios, you don't look for negative scenarios, it could be a weakness. Seek positive feedback and feel depressed or dejected when things go wrong. If you are a prevention focused type of person, you work more methodically, slowly, you tend to be very accurate, you're prepared for the worst. So you look at the worst case scenarios rather than the best case scenarios. You get stressed by short deadlines and you try and be true to the ways of doing things. You're uncomfortable with praise or optimism and you feel anxious when things go wrong. So I worked with one gentleman in the corporate sector who was a extremely prevention focused person. So, and he was senior to us. So as a vice president, whatever projects we would come and suggest to him, new projects, he would always cut us down. Right, he would always say, this is not right, this is not right, and this can go wrong, and this can go wrong. We felt he was extremely, extremely negative. But our CEO said, you know, I still feel he has some worth for our company, because before I launch some big project or open up a new department, this employee of mine, the senior employee, does give me the worst case scenario. So then I'm able to judge and juggle, you know, and work out, should I go for this project or not go for this project, right? So you can get people who are highly prevention focused. What about if you're an introvert or extrovert? What do we mean by introvert or extrovert? Does anybody want to answer that by unmuting themselves? Do you know what we mean by introvert or extrovert? I'm asking this question to the audience.
Anybody would like to share? Let me, Mavish Sayyed from Karachi. Mavish Saba, can you please share and represent IBA Karachi? आपकी understanding क्या है, Mavish Saba? जी, Mavish Sayyed, are you there?
Hello.
जी, Mavish Saba. जी.
Hi.
Mavish, जी. मैंने कहा खातून है तो इधर से भी खातून.
Hello.
Hi. We can listen, please.
Okay, introvert is a person who keeps his feelings to himself and doesn't express. An extrovert is a person who likes to express his feelings and whatever he's thinking. So.
Okay. Any other distinguishing factor? Do you think you're an introvert or an extrovert, ma'am?
Ji
Do you
Janab.
think you're an introvert or an extrovert?
Nazli, we have Masuma. Anybody else? Maybe she has a signal problem. So anybody else? Nazia, would you like to share? Nazia, Masuma. Okay. So Nazli Saiba, Nazli Abid. So there's sometimes Nazli Saiba, she was the ex-president of the Women Chamber in Karachi. So she's with us in this course. She's taking the entrepreneurship course. Nazli Saiba, किधर है आप?
जी जी मैं इधर ही हूँ.
फिल्जा जी जी बताइए, उर्दू में बता दें, हिंदी में बताएं, क्या फर्क है दोनों में?
जी जी मैं यार जूम किधर गया?
जी जी बोले बोले बहन.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes ma'am.
Okay. Extrovert जो होते हैं, they provide us the information and everything outside कर देते हैं. They have no shyness, nothing. They also exchange the ideas. They also give promotion to others, I think. And the other one, introverted, they are inside, they are planning and they are doing work, and they don't want to share anything. And for the promotion of themselves, they also are shy, that they don't have if they don't have anything like any sarmaya ho gaya, the properties or the bird in hands, they don't want to share with their partners even.
If I can ask you, do you think I'm shy?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't.
So then I should be an extrovert, right? But actually, I'm an introvert. Actually, I'm an introvert.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Explain what it means. Yeah, I'll explain. Thanks for trying. Thank you so much. You know, that's a misconception. People feel introverts are shy, they communicate less. You know, that's actually a misconception, right? So what happens is we need to think of our free time. In your free time, when you are not at work or not involved with family responsibilities, do you like spending time on your own, or do you need to be with people around you, right? Where do you get your energy from? So if you get your energy from being alone, like I do, although I love my family, I love my friends, and I love my dog and everything, but if given a choice, I would like to spend some time maybe reading alone or going for a solitary walk and thinking and contemplating or meditating or whatever. So that therefore I am more inclined towards introversion, right? According to the personality test. And an extrovert is somebody who in their spare time gets energy from being with people. They need people around them. Now, who do you think is having more difficulty in the pandemic, where we are restricted in our social mobility? Who do you think would be having more difficulty? Anybody? Introvert or extrovert? Dr. Qureshi, you'll have to unmute yourself, Dr. Qureshi.
Yeah, we have a participant from Azerbaijan. Our student from Azerbaijan, she's taking this course. Where is that? Where is Nazreen? Nazreen, can you please answer the question?
Yes. Hello to everyone. I think that I'm extrovert, and extrovert people, they need community, they need society, they need they don't keep distance between with others. They for example, you mentioned also that during the pandemic, that's really boring for them. I think because this station is not for them. They are yeah, that's all.
Absolutely right. You've hit the bullseye. So because, like I said, I repeat that an introvert gets their energy. They get energized by, in their spare time, being with themselves. We do have a lot of conversations in our head, a lot of thinking, you know, amongst ourselves, reflection and all that. So if I'm with people, I'm fine. If I'm not with people, I'm fine, right? An extrovert, they get energized by being with people. So if you isolate them, there are some people in the pandemic who are, unfortunately, for certain reasons, totally isolated. They may be alone in their house, right? They may not be with their families for various reasons. So these people are obviously having difficulty because they're not getting their energy. They get energized by being with people. Now, for many years, scholars had thought that good leaders are extroverts. But now new research is showing that's not always true. A lot of the CEOs in this world are actually introvert. About 40% of them, yeah? So introverts like me, we have a learned behavior. Obviously, we have an office face. So when I'm speaking to big crowds, I come across as confident. And even if I go to a party or a social function, I can mix with people very quickly because that's a learned behavior. I've picked it up as I go along, right? So CEOs also pick up that behavior because that's a requirement of the job. But if given a chance, they would prefer to spend their time on their own. So the point I'm trying to get here is an entrepreneur or intrapreneur can be both. You can be either an introvert or an extrovert. It doesn't stop you. It doesn't stop you from setting up your own enterprise. As long as you know what is your personality. And how do you know your personality? You go through some personality tests. For example, MBTI, Myers-Briggs test, which is available online. It's called the 16 personality test. That's one instrument that you can use, which will tell you more about your personality. There's also DISC tests. There's many different types of tests which are freely available. So you need to understand yourself first, which is very important. It takes half a lifetime for us to understand ourselves. Now, another thing is, and after this, hopefully I'll take a question. For many years, researchers have said that an entrepreneur is somebody who likes taking risks. For many years, a lot of studies have shown this. But recent research is disputing this. It's saying, no, nothing like that. It's saying that a lot of entrepreneurs take very calculated risks. They think the things out very carefully. They work things out before they even take a risk. So it's not something, they do without thinking. So again, you could be risk tolerant or risk adverse, and you can still become an entrepreneur. Okay, so this is again a kind of a stereotype that entrepreneurs are people who take fantastic risks. Not always. That's not always the case. Yeah, and maybe they take a risk and it doesn't work out. Then then they have to think things through again, work it out again on paper, pencil, and whatever. They have to really, really work it out. So this is an interesting quotation here. Entrepreneurs are not risk takers, they are calculated risk takers. The difference between risk taker and calculated risk taker is the difference between failure and success. So this is recent studies are showing this more and more.
We have one question. Mavish wants to ask one question, if you can take that.
Please, yes.
Yes,
okay, I have a question that I've seen generally extrovert people becoming more successful because they are able to communicate and not only communicate, since they talk to a lot of people and they have this capability of mingling and the interpersonal skills are good. So don't you think that the chances are brighter for an extrovert to become more successful in business than an introvert? Also, this is what I've observed. The people who are extrovert, they're also ready to take risk. You are right that risk taking, since the recent research has proven that it's not necessary that the people who are ready to take more risk, this is not an important quality for an entrepreneur. But yet I feel that thinking of leaving your job and venturing out in something new itself, it's a risk, and it's a kind of a risk. So this is what I feel, that extrovert they become more successful than introverts. Correct me if I'm wrong.
So I'll dispute, I'll play devil's advocate. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I very often play devil's advocate. So my students say one thing and then I talk to them about complete opposite, right? Because that helps build up critical ability, yeah? So let me dispute I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong, you get me? I'm just giving the other side of what you're saying, and then you can make up your own mind. So let me take the second point first. you're saying leaving a job is a risk. Isn't everything in life a risk? Is not getting married a risk? You leave your job as a woman and you go into somebody else's house, right? Is that not, I think that's one of the biggest risks. You have children who are given to you. I mean, you don't know what your children are going to turn out as. Isn't that a risk? Yeah. I mean, a lot of things we do in life are risks. Yeah. And a lot of things are not in our locus of control. So I don't know, but let's go back to your first point, more confidence. And you seem to be implying having more confidence and networking more. So I would dispute that by saying that you can learn confidence. Confidence is not necessarily something that is innate, okay? So if I give my own example, at the age of 18, I had very low self-esteem. I was brought up in England. I faced a lot of racism, didn't feel comfortable about myself. But today, I mean, people would say that I have very high self-esteem, right? So something I've learned over the years. And then due to my professional successes, that's given me a lot more confidence in myself. I used to think if my bosses are giving me performance bonuses, then I must be doing something good, right? Something right in my workplace. So, you know, as women, I think when our work starts getting recognized and valued, we then start believing in ourselves a lot more. I'm saying as women because this is a problem for women. That self-belief comes a bit later, perhaps due to socialization. So confidence can be learned, and even speaking, like I said, in large crowds, networking is something that can definitely be learned. As Dr. Qureshi was saying, I'm part of the executive committee of MSR, which is Management of Spirituality and Religion. We had voting recently, and I was voted in as an executive member, sitting in India, right? I mean, but people know me internationally because I'm constantly interacting with various professors, and I'm in various forums and Zoom conversations, and I contribute a lot in terms of my opinions. So, you know, people know I'm vocal, and I mean, I'm known in my university to be a very good networker. So if some students are holding a function or they're having an HR conclave, then usually they come to me, ma'am, aap ek do guest hame chahiye. We want some CEOs, CHROs, or we want some professors, international professors from your network. So again, that's something we build up. It's a skill that you can build up. Trust me on that. I was never a good networker. I was not confident when I compare myself to the age of 18. But these two things are very high now for me, right? So, I mean, why I'm giving my example is that I'm in front of you. So it's like evident, right? It's very evident. So I would actually disagree with you. And like I said, recent research has found that about 40% of the leading CEOs in the world, Fortune 500 companies, are introvert. So they have learned the skills of being confident, of networking, of being strategic, of being successful. They've learned all those skills and they're doing really well. But when they go home in their spare time, they would like to be alone. So I hope that's answered your question. Any other question, or should I move on?
So move on, please, because we have another like 20 minutes left.
Sure, sure. So this first part was about, largely the first part was about personality traits. Now I'm going to talk about motivation. Just a few slides here, so then we can take Q&A. So what motivates either an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur? What motivates an entrepreneur, as the lady said, to leave your job and do your own thing? It could be many things. It could be you want your own success, you want to be your own boss, you want power, you want wealth. But there are other factors also. There are other very critical factors, which I've emphasized in my books. In this book, Unveiling Women's Leadership, there is a case of a marital victim, Pratibha Shastri. She went on to become a very successful serial entrepreneur because she said after this very abusive relationship that I've left my husband and then I don't even want a male boss over my head. I don't want anyone above me. I want to be my own boss and I want to prove myself, and I believe I have the skills. She set up one company, she sold it after a few years, then she set another company. That's what's called a serial entrepreneur, where you keep building enterprises, then you keep selling them off. She's a very successful serial entrepreneur today, and she's actually in advisory roles for many other entrepreneurship. So her motivation was not power, success, money, wealth, or for not even her own name. It was to build her identity. So what I'm trying to say is that people have different motivations. There's another chapter in this book which is about one lady in Bombay. She's a good friend of mine. So she was a lawyer, but then when she had children, she decided to stay at home for the next 20 years to bring up her children. Then what happened is once the kids went to college, she didn't have anything to do. So she thought, what should I do? I can't go back to law because I'll have to study a lot again. So let me set up my own publishing company. She set up her own publishing company, and she's doing well, spiritual books. But she said to me, Payal, honestly, I'm not making a lot of profit. It's kind of break even. But I jump out of the bed every morning so excited because this is my enterprise. I meet authors, I meet vendors, and even my own relatives have started taking a lot of advice from me rather than from my husband. So she gets a kick out of it. She loves her work, right? Because she feels that she owns it and it's building up her identity again. So there are many different reasons why people turn to entrepreneurship. In this particular book I did with Professor Agarwal, we spoke about social entrepreneurship. Obviously another motive is giving back to society. And I think nowadays with pandemic and all sorts of things happening around the world in terms of nature and, forest fires and all sorts of craziness going on out there. We're realizing much more that we need to look after the earth, we need to look after underprivileged, much more. So people who give back to society, they look at multiple stakeholders. They don't look at, okay, it's my company, I want a lot of profit and I want my staff to do well. It's much beyond that. It's about, we want to do good for society, and we want to do much more beyond that. So even this last bullet point, mentoring entrepreneurs at the bottom of the pyramid, this is also one way of CSR activity, corporate social responsibility. It doesn't have to be that you are giving back to society in terms of funds or something tangible. You could even mentor entrepreneurs, say the village level. You may be a good entrepreneur, you can mentor people at the bottom of the pyramid. That's also one way of giving back. That's another way of social entrepreneurship, right? Which can be done in many ways. So a lot of people who do social entrepreneurship are motivated, like I said, to beyond simply the profit and loss equation. They want to give back to society as well. And it could be in terms of sustainability, sustaining the environment also. So, I've kept it a little bit brief because I'd like to answer questions if there are any. I'm looking at the time over here.
Okay, great. So we have, there's a, Wakas is asking from Karachi that how can we manage risk on business platform? Beta, ye sawal aapka on business platform ka kya matlab? Just how can we manage risk? Ye hum padha kar bude ho chuke hain. So I would request Payal Sahiba to please add what you want, what's your take?
A general question, but in life in general, we have to take risks. Like I said, whether you get married, whether you leave to work in another town, whether you set up your own entrepreneurship, there are risks everywhere, right? So we take calculated risks, right? Isn't it? We should take calculated risks. Ask people who are more experienced than you, who already have done entrepreneurship in that area. Talk to them. Do your research through surveys. Do your research by reading a lot. Reading is, I will obviously say read a lot because I produce a lot of books and I believe in the power of the word. So take calculated risks, do your research well before you take any big decision, because obviously you'll be spending money, right? You'll be possibly taking a loan and spending money. But I do believe a lot in talking to experienced people. So I generally, as a habit, I do a lot of conferences. I keep going around the world. Before the pandemic, I keep going to various conferences. But if I see somebody very senior in years, like above 70, and I often talk to people in the senior years of life. And when I talk to them, I'll just ask them a few questions and I spend a lot of time listening, because I find that people with a lot of years under them, they tend to become wise. So I think it's very important for us to listen. Even in your own family, you may have very wise people, but you don't realize, you kind of take them for granted. Talk to people who are seemingly more wise than you, nothing wrong with that, and then take calculated risks.
There's a very interesting question coming from Abu Dhabi, and Shoaib is, the person is Suhail. And Suhail Ahmed from Abu Dhabi, Pakistani origin person, and he's saying that how do you see social entrepreneurship as a tool to reduce poverty in the subcontinent, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. You see, how do you see social entrepreneurship?
Social entrepreneurship, I mean, Bangladesh is very well known for doing the bottom of the pyramid entrepreneurship. So, I mean, like in India, we have now, you know, 1 rupee shampoos, 1 rupee. I don't even know how they manage the costs. So you have it, or hair oil, and you get very tiny little packets, or toothpaste of 3-4 rupees. So it's interesting because while this was geared for the people in the rural areas, but in fact, it's being also used by travelers, you know, who are urbanites. So even hotels, if you go into a hotel, you'll find a pouch with a little 1 rupee shampoo, and you know, so it's actually broadened. So while it was aimed for the absolute bottom of the pyramid, but they have actually got more client base, right? So it's interesting to do that. I just saw a question on Maslow's pyramid. I just want to talk about that. We all know Maslow's pyramid, where you start with, you know, basic needs, and then you move up the ladder, and eventually, hopefully, up to self-actualization. But the pandemic has brought us the other way around. It's inverted the Maslow's pyramid, has it not? Suddenly, we are very now much concerned about food safety, about our roof over the head, is it not? Where should we stay in the pandemic to keep our family safe? What do we need to sanitize? Food coming in, we need to sanitize it all the time. So actually, I think currently we've turned Maslow's pyramid on its head, and any entrepreneur that understands that people are very, very wary about safety, they're doing very well. I mean, masks are coming out with, you know, diamond-studded masks, and all sorts of kind of people are coming up with fantastic entrepreneurial ideas, masks that you can, you know, open with a little transparent thing, with the Bluetooth, mask with Bluetooth. So entrepreneurs are coming up with fantastic ideas on how to take care of your safety. You know, your roti, kapda or makan, which is the bottom 3 layers of Maslow's pyramid, which today has become very, very important for all of us around the world. Hanji.
Farah Khan Sahiba, I'm encouraging more women today, so please men don't mind, because after a long time we got a woman. So Farah, why don't you ask the question? Farah Khan Sahiba ने इतना लंबा सवाल लिखा है, वो मुझे देर में मैं पढ़ूंगा. Farah, can you switch on your mic and ask directly?
Okay.
And introduce yourself, please. You're from Karachi?
Yes, sir, I'm from Karachi. Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Payal, it's an honor to have you over here, and I'm really happy to, I'm considering myself very blessed to have this session. Coming over to my question, I wanted to ask that women are underprivileged because of social boundaries and community barriers and other factors. How would you advise us on this platform as being an entrepreneur in future, how to face such hurdles? Because women do often face such discrimination and get motivated by people. I just want to ask this question.
So, you know, I don't think it's only women that are discriminated in this world. Fat people are discriminated, you know, blind people are discriminated. So the discrimination takes place at various levels in society, right? So what I would say is, you know, once you reach success, nobody looks at, are you a woman, are you a man? They'll just look at your success. So focus on that. Don't focus on, you know, mujhe ye problem hai, wo problem hai. Problems to kisko nahi hai. Some may have more, some may have less. But what I discovered when I worked in 4 industries. What I discovered is that when I became successful, then whatever challenges, I did face challenges as a woman, no doubt about it. But after that, nobody, you know, spoke about male, female, this, that. All they see is your success. Do you get me?
Okay.
I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
No.
So what I'm saying is challenges are not there just for women. Challenges are there for men in various ways. Or, you know, let's talk about school bullying, just one topic. School children bully somebody who's fat, or somebody who looks different, somebody who has a stutter, somebody who's left-handed, is it not? Children can be very cruel to each other, and they bully you for various reasons just because you're slightly different from the herd, is it not? So we all face various challenges in life, but yeah, with women there is something called intersectionality. So if I take the example of let's take the example, for example, of a Black American woman. So she faces double discrimination, number one for being black and number two for being a woman. And let's just imagine she's a lesbian. So that's three types of, she faces three problems, is it not? Three societal challenges. It's called intersectionality. So fine, we have to manage it, right? And if we are able to get ahead and successful, so your Jack Ma and your Mark Zuckerman, they were not born in rich families or very highly educated families. They struggled and they made it, right? A lot of people struggle and make it. So it is possible. Yeah, I hope I've answered your question, Farah. Try not to think of women, men, just think of this is the entrepreneurship that I want to go into. Let me take a calculated risk. Let me get some mentors. Let me get some backing. Let me get some finance. Let me put it together and let me go for it. Believe in yourself. Thank you for the thumbs up.
Janab, thank you very much. Mehboob Sahaba has said, I totally agree with Payal. I have never felt discriminated. Also, I feel in our society, women get more respect, opportunities and attention as compared to men. Nazili Sahaba, sun lein Janab, chamber walo, ye women chamber ko represent kar rahi hai, Nazili Sahaba. Mehboob Sahaba ne kaha, hum apni duniya aap paida kar. Hamare jo shair the na, Payal Sahaba, Iqbal, he said, apni duniya aap paida kar agar zindon mein hai. If you are alive, then fight and do create your own world. Don't ask for favor and create your own world, man. So I think
against the tide. I've always swum against the tide. 1991, I came from England to India. At that time, nobody was coming from England to India, right?
Yes, carry on.
So, create your own world, absolutely.
So Muhammad Maaz, at least a man coming in, so I'm taking one man, otherwise they will be very angry with me. Filza, I will be asking you to ask a question directly. Filza is from Multan. And Filza, Payal is from Multan. So we need to connect Multan to Multan. Payal, your picture is gone. So Filza will be asking a direct question from Multan. Before that, I ask a gentleman who was that Muhammad Maaz is asking, entrepreneurs are born or made? We came to listen that we should first experience whatever you want to start. So, Payal, can you listen?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you.
So, can you switch over your camera? Filza Sahaba, why don't you ask a question from Multan? Filza from Multan. So,
Payal, it's so good to know that you're from Multan. And last when I went to India, I went to Chandigarh and I met a lot of Multanis and we could relate to a lot of things together.
Wonderful.
I've been to India quite a few times.
Fantastic. Nice.
What I wanted to say here was like a few women were saying that we're women and we feel discrimination and all. I think in other terms, it's the motivation for us. And it makes us more determined that, okay, if you're discriminated here, we prove you. This is what we are.
Right.
Instead of, but at times, because we have social and cultural norms, when there is not a level playing field, then we have to ask for, we have to fight for our rights. We have to speak up. And, a lot of people question us, why do you have women chambers? Why a separate chamber for women? Why not the same as the men's chamber? Be a part of it. So the thing is that there's not a level play field as yet. At least in Indo-Pak, I keep on meeting a lot of people from Bangladesh and India.
True.
So I think the governments need to a little bit of, support to the women entrepreneurs because it's not easy for them to, jump into this bandwagon, especially considering our social and cultural norms.
I agree. So, but, I agree. Like I said, there are, of course, a lot of challenges. But, I would also say that try and believe in yourself. And I'm very vocal, whatever industry I've worked in, I've been extremely vocal, but I've also been collaborative, right? So, you want to work with people, male, female, tall, short, whatever it is, you have to work with people, is it not? So I think one very good way is, I do a lot of studies on personalities, trying to understand people, different personalities, different motivational levels. On a personal basis, one can do that, is to try and understand personalities more. That gives you an insight that not everybody can be like me. There are different people out there. So just a very quick example, I'll probably end with, I think time is up. I was working in a high-level group in London, and one of the team members, we were given this puzzle that we had to do. We were being timed and videoed like a big jigsaw puzzle. We had 2 minutes to do it. And this was some kind of team game that we were playing. So we were four of us. 3 of us started getting our hands dirty and we started putting the jigsaw puzzle away, while the 4th, my London colleague, was not doing anything. He just sat on a chair a little bit away, but he was watching. And in the very end, we just had 15 seconds left. We couldn't complete the jigsaw puzzle. We got stuck. He got up from his chair and he completed it. So that made me realize that we all have different even working styles, never mind personalities. You know, we 3 were like, get your hands dirty wala style, but his was reflect and look at the problem from a distance, right? So that was a big learning for me. So understanding people around you really, really helps. I feel, I mean, that's really helped me in my life.
Can we take the last question? The 2 questions. One is Noman Yusuf. He says, given your background in religious studies, have you done any research on connection between belief in God and successful leaders?
Not so much research, but I teach an ethics course with my MBA students. So I try and bring it into practice, and I have a lot of Zoom discussions with professors around the world on this. So we also try, like I said, to create ethical leaders. So we teach them a lot about, you know, think beyond profit. Profit and loss is a very small thing to think about, right? Try and think beyond. Think about society, think about how you can give back. And we do need to think about it.
We have Professor Hans. He's our professor of entrepreneurship from Bangkok University. We have Ahmed Zahir Saab is our registrar, ex-registrar. He's an ex-retired officer. He says, do retired officers have prospects as entrepreneurs?
Of course, everybody has. Everybody has. It doesn't matter about your age, gender. It's basically, what is your idea? What is your idea about entrepreneurship? Will it work? And do you have the personality and resilience to go ahead with it? You could be an introvert, extrovert, old, young, doesn't matter. Do you believe in your idea? Are you going to take a calculated risk? And do you have a mentor? That's very important. Yeah. Absolutely.
Dr. Jamil is saying social entrepreneurship and entrepreneurship are the same or different?
Different. Entrepreneurship is about gaining profit and creating jobs. Social entrepreneurship is about giving back also, right? It could be through education. It could be through looking at the bottom of the pyramid. It's about giving back, or sustainability, you know, cleaning rivers or something or the other. So it's about giving back also. It's much wider scope, much wider vision.
There are so many questions that we have been bombarded. You know, this was 165 people listening to you.
Wow, that's amazing. That's fantastic. I think this pandemic is a good opportunity to take calculated. Yeah, like I said, I think this, you know, very difficult times in life are actually good opportunities also. It's black and white, right? A negative can lead to a positive. So, like I said, I'm seeing so many products out there, you know, which are being created due to the pandemic. People have come up with all these ideas and they're filling in a gap because now everybody wants that. You want certain type of sanitizers, you want certain type of masks, everybody wants that, right? Because we are very concerned about our safety. We are concerned about the 3 bottom layers of Maslow's pyramid at this current moment in time, world over. Is it not? We're concerned about our food, our safety, our house.
Hans, would you like to say thank you on my behalf? Hans from Germany and right now in Bangkok. Can you say thank you, ma'am?
Yes, Sawadee-Kap. It's an honor and pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Hans.
Coming from Thailand, Thailand is a very entrepreneurial country. Half of the population is engaged in entrepreneurial activity. And
wonderful.
Specifically, we are one of 6 countries in the world with nearly gender equality in entrepreneurship. Unfortunately, only in entrepreneurship. But in entrepreneurship,
long way to go.
Women take the lead, and you are really a role model for the female participants here as well as the male. And you touched down on LGBTQ+. So you're a role model for whatever each and every participant is in. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Last comment. Ahmed Zahir Saab, can you say thank you note on behalf of Pakistani people, sir? Ahmed Zahir Saab, he is representing Pakistan. Ahmed Zahir Saab are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm there. Thank you very much, Dr. Payal. It's been a very engrossing session and some very useful knowledge coming in, and we thoroughly enjoyed the information that you presented. And I wish we could have had more time with you. And since you are the first Indian speaker in this particular course, so we're looking forward to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.